arts feed the soul.
I never didn't want to be an artist.
Not something that I do, it's what I am.
I've not found anything as satisfying or challenging as trying to make a work of art.
For an artist's work to be valued, it must not only be creative, but also needs a community that embraces it. Stormwater Studios was created in 2018 after a group of artists in the Vista lost their lease due to gentrification and needed to find a new home. The city had begun planning a new facility for them back in 2007, but the Great Recession forced them to shelve the project for over 10 years. When it finally came to fruition, it was as part of a new arts district, complete with 2 neighbors, Lewis and Clark, Furniture and Lamps, and One-Eared Cow, glassblowing. The artists are now enjoying many improvements in the new studio, including high ceilings, skylights, air conditioning, sinks, and better access.
Now we can drive right up to the building. We're on the same level as the parking lot. There's no parking meters. We can bring stuff in.
Even though this is actually smaller square footage than I had at Vista Studios, I was able to set it up much better because of the access and the doors.
I have lots of bins of material, and every time I go on location to work with a school group or to do a project somewhere, I have to bring all my stuff with me.
They're also enjoying the gracious gallery space with a moving wall that can be configured in a number of ways, and the natural surroundings outside.
It's quiet. It's beautiful. There's a small creek down below that, although it's mostly stormwater runoff, it still attracts wildlife.
Sometimes I'll just walk back there and sit by the creek and journal or just think. It's nice.
This facility belongs to everyone. It belongs to the public. It's an incentive for them to come and relax and enjoy this place.
Shows are free to the public, and visitors may even get a chance to see the artist process or ask them about their inspiration.
I feel like what we have here is really special because we're not just a gallery. We're working studios. We have 10 resident artists here, so I feel like there's a lot to see right here. We're all doing very different work.
Now this wing is full scale, 28 feet, and it represents, in a sense, the wars that humanity keeps visiting on themselves. But at the same time, it's painted like a monarch butterfly, which alludes to the other war that we are constantly waging, the relentless war against nature. The original concept I've held for over 10 years. It took about half a year. I looked at industrial footage of fighter factories and designed it actually the same way but with lighter materials as the actual fighter wing. As we go through this life, we forget about the ordinaries and the magnificence of it. It's even the smallest creatures beyond belief.
It's not a canvas that you can pick up and shove in the car. The first challenge would simply be the weight of all the stuff. If I'm doing one of the big pieces, like there's a couple outside, you have to plan those ahead of time. You've got to have big bins and lots of packing material because you've got a cushion so things don't get scratched. When you're doing something like this, which comes in what they call random boulders, you're really just diving in and working with the stone and what's there. No matter how hard I try, I think I almost always are going to end up with very curved and angular type pieces. And I typically have a lot of upward motion, whether it's a highly simplified animal form, which I do, as well as the abstracts, which is what I'm working on now.
I know what I want the piece to more or less look like when I'm done. I know who I want it to look like, and have figured out a lot of it before I even began. I'm just trying to kind of lay down some values right now, kind of work from the big shapes to the small. You lay in your darks and your lights, kind of build the form, and it'll have some dimension to it when it's finished. I was just looking around at our community, the world around me, and becoming very aware of what a disposable society we are. And so I decided to tackle this issue of really disposable plastics. And I do have a message behind the work. I think that the way that we're living is not sustainable.
Well, my subjects are primarily fish and places I fish. I'm passionate about the environment. I'm passionate about natural spaces. I'm from South Carolina. I love our rivers and woods and lakes and ocean and nature and fish and everything in that environment. And that's the subject of my work. I think the thing that differentiates art is that goes above and beyond the ordinary. Take an idea, they take some materials, and they do something that is original, unique, and beyond explanation.
My work is about balance. When it's achieved, it gives me a kind of a balance. I've come to the conclusion that we as a species have really become much too enthralled with ourselves. So I started doing this older man who was thinking about aging and thinking about a lot of things. And then he began to get too serious, and I decided he needed a companion, and the bonobo was, I thought, a good foil for him. They're different from chimps. They solve things by touch. They're a matriarchal society. They're much more cooperative. He doesn't really criticize, but he does a lot of observing. They don't say much, but it's understood.
Stormwater also welcomes visiting artists, hosts workshops, and even has a studio just for the Visual Arts School at South Carolina. The residents at Stormwater contribute to the upkeep of the building, the website, and various other tasks, including taking turns as the president.
The main job each of us has is to come in and work. You know, I don't think of my success in terms of sales or not sales. I mean, it certainly makes a difference. It's nice to be able to pay the rent from sales at least.
The artists have learned to network, keep a low overhead, and use social media to market their work beyond the studio, and some even offer private lessons. But in the end, money isn't necessarily their main goal. Making art is.